All right, go ahead.
Hello, I am calling the agenda for the regular meeting of the zoning administrator for the city of San Clemente to order. My name is Cecilia Gallardo Daly. I'm the zoning administrator. The first item of business is to receive and file the minutes of the zoning administrator meeting of February 4, 2021. So received and filed. The next item on the agenda is oral and written communication. This is a time on the agenda when members of the audience may address the zoning administrator on any item within the jurisdiction of the zoning administrator that's not on the agenda. Speakers can submit their comments on agenda items or for oral written communication electronically. The material may be emailed to www.san-clemente.org/ZA public comment, all one word. And we request that those comments under oral and written communication be submitted by noon on zoning administrator meeting days. And the zoning administrator is not permitted to discuss or take action on items that do not appear on the agenda. So I have not received any requests for oral or written communication. So we're going to move on to the next item on the agenda, which is public hearings. The public hearing process includes a staff presentation, a presentation by the applicant not to exceed 10 minutes, and public testimony not to exceed 3 minutes per speaker. We have one public hearing item on the agenda for today. That is a minor architectural permit for the La Ventura Fences and Gates located at 2316 South El Camino Real. And we'll have our staff planner, Katie Crockett, give us a staff report on this item. Thank you, Katie.
Thank you, Cecilia. Good afternoon. The project before you today is a minor architectural permit to allow the addition of fences and gates to enclose the La Ventura Event Center site for security purposes. The event center is located on South El Camino Real, east of the I-5 freeway, near the intersection of El Camino Real and West Avenida San Gabriel, as shown on page 1 of the agenda report. An auto repair shop abuts the property to the north, a liquor store abuts the property to the south, and single-family residences to the west. You can see the existing conditions from both the El Camino Real frontage as well as the San Gabriel frontage on page 2 of the agenda report. As you can see, the building itself was designed in a Spanish colonial revival style. It's characterized by the smooth white stucco building walls, 2-piece clay tile roofing, and wood beam rafter tails and proportional arches, among other things. So the applicant has reported a significant number of issues related to trespassing, vandalism, as well as attempted break-ins. I'm sure that the applicant, Mr. Kapoff, can speak to that a bit once staff presentation is done. To minimize these occurrences, particularly during times when the event center is not holding events, so it's kind of quiet and maybe just one staff member or nobody at the site, the applicant proposes to add these gates to enclose it to prevent those types of things from happening. And the sheriff has confirmed that they've received a number of calls related to trespassing and things like that at the property. So, so the applicant does propose to add to the existing walls that are at the site. So the south property line as well as the west property line, both already have a stucco solid wall that runs the length with a gate at the southwest corner for vehicles between the two abutting properties. An applicant proposes to add, well, I guess I should say that the east property line is largely occupied by the building itself. And so the applicant proposes to add a vehicular gate at the front along the east property line. This gate is wrought iron with decorative knuckles as well as sort of a decorative wrought iron detail in the middle. It's set back significantly from the El Camino Real right-of-way and behind actually the building frontage. They also propose wrought iron gates along the San Gabriel frontage and kind of up around that auto repair shop that's just to the north of them. Those gates are just standard wrought iron. Wrought iron is a typical material that's utilized in Spanish colonial revival architecture, and particularly with the decorative gate at the front, that is consistent with those kind of design guidelines. There are a couple of vehicular gates also, other than that main one exiting onto San Gabriel, one that goes into that auto repair center, and they are adding in a new gate at the existing vehicular gate that goes over to the multifamily, kind of right behind that liquor store property. So staff does recommend approval of these gates. Again, they really are consistent. The design of them are consistent with the Spanish colonial revival architecture. They don't defeat kind of the purpose of the fences and walls standards in the code or the general plan. They are open. You can still see into the property. They're not interrupting any views. They're not taking away or detracting from the architecture of the building. So we recommend that it is deemed exempt from the requirements of CEQA, and the details of that are in the report and the resolution. And we recommend approval of the attached resolution. One thing I wanted to point out is we do need some additional landscape details prior to them pulling their permits, since these new gates, particularly on Avenue de San Gabriel, will be installed kind of in the middle of landscaping. We want to make sure that that is maintained and modified in whatever way necessary to kind of keep the character of that landscape, even with the addition of these gates. So that concludes my presentation. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. The applicant, Don Kapoff, is also here, as well as the architect, Gary Wiggle. So Don may have a few words to say, and I did receive a public comment that I can read into the record when appropriate.
Okay, thank you, Kate, for that staff report. Very thorough. I don't have any additional questions for you at this time, but I will now turn it over to the applicant. If you wish to make a statement or comments about your project. And I know we've got Don Kopoff here and Gary Wiggle.
So first, thank you, Katie, for your work on this. It's been quite a process for us to get to this point. I want to thank you for that. Regarding San Gabriel and the landscaping that landscaping that will need to be modified, I think, is not where the gates are, it's where the fences are, correct? Because the gates are not putting landscaping. So, okay, just as long as it's clear that you want to make sure that where the wrought iron fencing is going to be, that we have landscaping there, correct?
Correct, and that's in your conditions of approval. I think it's condition 4.20, that requirement.
What do you want to see there?
So it should be consistent with what was already approved. You will submit your modified landscape plan because obviously it's going to be disrupted, and we'll review that for consistency with your existing landscape plan. If you do need to make changes, that's okay. We can review that. We can send it to our landscape architect as well, so that he can review it.
Okay, hey, Gary, I have a question. Along where that's at, along San Gabriel, how much of that is a block wall?
Don, I'm going to interrupt you here. This is your time to address the zoning administrator regarding your project. If you have questions about your project for your architect, you'll probably have to take those offline.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, that's fine. That's great. I was just trying to find out from him. So if I had a question, if I had the answer to my question from him, I could address Katie on that. That's all. You know what I'm saying?
There's nothing for you to address in terms of that at this time. We have it covered with the conditions of approval.
Okay, all right. All right, then I'm fine. I'm
I
done.
think that'll be an easy condition to meet
All
with the
right,
landscaping.
I'm fine. Nothing more.
Gary, was there anything you would like to state for the record or add at this time?
No, Katie described it well. We did make an effort to make the front gate the most decorative, which is consistent with this style of architecture and most things. The front entry is typically the most dramatic. So that gate does have the emblem of La Ventura on it, and then as well as the kind of the soft arch recalling the other arches on the building. And for most of these gates, they are telescoping gates. So they don't swing, they slide. And because of our physical limitations on site, they stack. So we've done that, and this is an electric gate. The motor is hidden. It's behind one of the architectural pieces, so you don't see that. So we've gone to care to take care of those kind of details as well. As a clarification, the gate going south to the other property, that gate is going to be clad in finished wood that matches the wood of the doors on La Ventura. It's turned out that becomes a good place for a photo op for some of the larger groups for wedding parties. And the wood becomes kind of a real nice soft background for that. And the view beyond that, of course, is just open parking lot.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing now. Katie, do you want to go ahead and read the comment we have received regarding this project?
Yes. That comment that we received electronically says, regarding the proposed minor architectural permit 20-307 for the project located at 2316 South El Camino Real, I am in favor of the proposed fences, walls, and gates as requested by the owner of the aforementioned property. These additions to the property are more than likely necessitated by the need for heightened security due to transients, vagrants, drug addicts, homeless, etc., that are allowed to flourish in the south end of this town. This property is a nice addition to our city, and the owner should be able to preserve and protect his investment. SCHS, class of 77 rules. Cheers, Pablo. That's all the public comment that I have.
All right, thanks, Katie. All right, so I will now close the public hearing. All right, and couple of things regarding the project. It is a combination of stucco walls, fences, and gates. The gates are very well done. I like the decorative design of the telescoping wrought iron gate on El Camino Real. I think cladding that fence at the property line between your business and the property to the south is a terrific idea. With respect to the landscaping that may be impacted by the project, we're really only talking about the Avenida San Gabriel frontage, where you have two existing landscape planters, and those landscape planter areas will be disrupted with the installation of new stucco walls. So there is a condition, as Katie mentioned, that says prior to the issuance of permits, the applicant is required to submit an updated landscaping plan showing how landscape will be modified to accommodate the fences while maintaining a substantially similar landscape design. So Dawn, at this time, I just wanted to make sure that you could find out from Gary if there were any limitations or any concerns related to that. I know you wanted to ask him something earlier during your presentation. I'll give you that opportunity.
As far as on San Gabriel, it's mostly going to be it'll be a gate, and then it'll be a little wrought iron, but the bulk of it will be a wall, a stucco wall. So my idea would be just to plant bougainvillea on it and make that look because that's consistent with on the back side of the property, and just call it a day. I hope that is good enough. That's all I was
Yeah, I
thinking.
think, yeah, and I think something like that would definitely be an enhancement and is in line with what we would want to see there.
And a benefit of that is, as you can see from the drawing, the bigger planter is full of utility boxes and vaults. So there's not a lot of planting area in there anyway. The wall is located behind all of the planting, so the public view is the planter's wall as the backdrop. So adding a couple of boogies along that wall would be a really nice enhancement, and that would give some green for the stretch where we just have vault, vault, vault. I think, and make it a friendlier looking wall. It also helps with it also helps with graffiti to have something growing along the wall too.
Yeah, I think that would definitely enhance the visual aspects of the development with the landscape that you have in mind. I think that keeping there's also a condition that requires that the vehicular gates remain open during business events, so that making sure that the gates aren't closed when you have events in progress, so as not to act as a deterrent to parking when events are occurring. I think this is important. We want to make sure that guests of the event center are parking on the street and impacting adjacent residences. That has been a significant area of concern in the past that we don't want to revisit. So I know there's a condition of approval in there that addresses that.
Can I ask a quick clarification on that? One of our original conditions of approval was the gate that's actually onto San Gabriel was supposed to be closed at all times during events to keep people off of that. So as long as that gate would then still remain closed. Right now it's chained off, I believe. And because that was an issue with the neighbors at the time. And the agreement was we could leave the one up to the alley area to exit that way to get to Coast High, to El Camino Real, and then the El Camino Real gate would stay open.
Cecilia, Gary's correct on that. And so thank you for pointing that out, Gary. I should modify that condition to state that those other two, so the one on El Camino Real and the one to that kind of alley by the auto repair center,
the former
would
city
remain
alley
open during events. So it would be wise to make that modification to specify that. I apologize.
Well,
okay, yeah. So we'll make that clarification.
In fairness to Katie, you did say vehicular gates, and the ones that were considered vehicular were the ones that we were only using anyway. So I understood what you meant.
Okay. All right. And with that, I am able to make the findings for the minor architectural permit. The architectural treatment of the project does comply with the city's general plan. The proposed fences and gates are for the purpose of securing the site to avoid loitering and property destruction, which is a very important consideration here. And this is consistent with land use policies in the general plan, which require maintenance of commercial areas and require that commercial projects abutting residential neighborhoods be designed and operated to protect residents from the effects of the commercial use. The design, color, and materials of the walls and fences complement the architectural design of the building. The architectural treatment of the project complies with the zoning ordinance. The proposed 6-foot-high fencing, walls and gates is a typical maximum height, not within a front setback. And the location of the fences help provide for an open street scene to allow primary structures on the street to be visible and to contribute to the visual character of the neighborhood. The architectural treatment of the project complies with the architectural guidelines of the city's design guidelines. Because the project is in a gateway area, Spanish colonial revival architecture is required. The proposed fences, walls, and gates comply with the city's design guidelines by utilizing materials such as stucco, wood, and wrought iron, which are traditional materials in the Spanish colonial revival vernacular. And the fences complement the architecture of the building rather than obscuring or detracting from it, consistent with the design guidelines. The general appearance of the proposed project is in keeping with the character of the neighborhood. The surrounding area on El Camino Real consists mostly of single-story commercial buildings and surface parking lots. The proposed fences and gates do not significantly impact the street scene along El Camino Real or Avenida San Gabriel. The fences and gates consist of open black wrought iron, keeping the street scene open in appearance. And very importantly, securing of the site will additionally enable the property owner to maintain the property and protect it from trespassing and loitering. And finally, the proposal is not detrimental to the orderly and harmonious development of the city. The project has been reviewed by the engineering department and utilities department to ensure that the placement of gates and fences don't impact circulation into or out of the site and don't affect the site distance. There is a condition of approval which requires the vehicle gates to remain open during events to ensure the gates proposed do not act as a deterrent to parking in the business's parking lot when events are held. And the proposed vehicular gate at the main entry from El Camino Real is equipped with sensors which automatically open the gate to allow vehicles to pass through to ensure vehicles don't need to back out into the intersection of El Camino Real if they mistakenly pull into the driveway while the gates are closed. So with that, I will make the CEQA findings, and I determined that the project is categorically exempt from the requirements of CEQA pursuant to CEQA guidelines section 15303, class 3, new construction or conversion of small structures. And I'm going to approve resolution ZA 21-003 with some slight modifications to the conditions of approval. We're going to make a modification to condition of approval 7.20 to clarify which gates are to remain open during events. And I'm going to make a modification to condition 4.21, which is the condition that requires the submittal of a landscape plan. I'm going to add the applicant shall submit to the planning division a landscape plan subject to the approval of the community development director. That's me. And then it continues on depicting both existing landscape and proposed landscape. So approval of that plan will be reviewed and subject to community development director approval. And with that, I'm going to approve resolution ZA 21-003, including the modified conditions, and approve minor architectural permit 20-307, La Ventura fences and gates, subject to the modified conditions of approval. And with that, we'll conclude that item and move on to the next item on the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Okay, that concludes the public hearings. The next item on the agenda is new business. Seeing none, we'll move on to the next item, which is old business. Seeing none, I will adjourn to the next regular meeting of the zoning administrator to be held on Thursday, March 4th, 2021 at 3 p.m. via teleconference.